Kia ora koutou katoa, no mai haere mai. Hi everyone and welcome. It's great to have you with us today for our second webinar. My name is Greta. I'm the Senior External Engagement Advisor at New Zealand Post. At our last webinar, we talked through our experiences with COVID-19 and how we were gearing up our capacity to support you in your business for the busy season. Well, we're now in the middle of our busy season, and so far our performance has been tracking as expected, which is really good news. Today's webinar is on sending internationally, which was a popular topic requested by viewers at the last webinar. So with me today is Sohail Chowdhury, our Chief International Business Officer, and he's also our Chief Data and Technology Officer. And then also joining us, Velina Duff, General Manager of our Australia and Singapore hubs. Velina is joining us from Australia today, so truly an international experience. Sohail and Velina will share with you some insights about our international operations, and then we're going to move to a panel discussion to answer your questions. So if you do have a question, please type this into the panel to the right of the video window. We'll try to get through as many as possible at the end. And then also today, we'd like to hear your thoughts through a poll. So to participate, click on the poll tab, also to the right of your video window, and you'll see today's question, which is, which of these overseas trends will you look to leverage? And then there's a few options there for you to respond to. Take a moment now to complete this, and you'll learn more about this topic during today's presentation. And then just before we get started, I do want to make sure you're having the best viewing experience possible. So if your connection starts buffering or you're having some issues, you can change your definition quality. So by default, you're probably viewing this in high definition, and you can adjust this at the bottom right of your video window. So click on HD, choose from one of the lower definition options, and that will help. If you get stuck, there are some more tips in the help section at the bottom of your screen too. We will be making a recording of this webinar available, so if you have to leave, don't stress. We'll send out the link following the webinar. I'm now going to hand over to Sohail, who will start today's presentation.
Welcome everyone. Welcome to New Zealand Post webinar on Going Global. My name is Sohail Chowdhury. I look after the international business and technology business. I'm joined with my colleague Velina Duff. She's based in Australia and look after our Australian and Singapore operations. She, along with me, will be happy to answer any question at the end of the webinar. And if there are any explanations you need from an import and export perspective, we will be very happy to further engage and answer any question in that regard. So in terms of webinar today, the webinar is divided into 4 sections. And what we like to share with you are international market trends and how they may apply to your export products and what's happening in those chosen markets. And in terms of supply chain, what's the update? How the supply chains are flowing around the world? Are there any constraints? Are there any opportunities? And if there are constraints, how to get around to it? In terms of new international product and services, whenever there is some incident or disaster happen, that brings also innovation. So there are ways of exploring product and services due to COVID in a different way. Like to share some of the innovation from that perspective. We have some of the things which you should, as an exporter, keep in mind, and we will just highlight those from an export business perspective. We are very excited to be able to share what Going Global mean to you and to us, and how we might be able to work together in partnership and help your business grow. New Zealand Post is really, our role is to help export business grow, which is not only from a New Zealand product services. We have an important role in helping New Zealand economy grow. We have an important role in ensuring that the New Zealand businesses are well positioned and they are able to achieve the heights by leveraging the clean green image of New Zealand Post. So hopefully today's webinar will give you a bit more insight into what that means and how there might be an opportunity for you to be working with us and going global. In this section, like to share with you latest trends and insights, and those trends and insights really relating to some of the categories with or the trends we are seeing, what's going on. What's going on in globally? The first of all, before COVID, e-commerce was growing. E-commerce around the world has been literally on the rise. And until last year, New Zealand was around 9%, and it's still growing. These trend, COVID has accelerated this. The trends in the global markets are changing, and those trends are a factor of many things. If you really look at the purchasing trends, largely, I would say, not only due to the online use or e-commerce, but also COVID has generated the apparel business is growing, pharmaceutical, nutraceutical, gaming, entertainment, and the other area, the health tech and education. Those businesses are growing because there's a whole that use of online, which has increased as a result of the COVID. Emerging destination, again, pre-COVID and post-COVID. The Southeast Asia has been the most growing region in the world. And then second is the Africa, and then South America and Latin America. E-commerce is growing phenomenally there. And there is a recent study done by Google, Temasek, and Bain and Company, where they said that countries like Malaysia and Indonesia, on these purchasing trends, as I mentioned, or the categories, there has been a 4 to 5 times more search done on that. There is an increased 1 hour increased use of digital interaction by the consumer in those markets. And there is, if you really look at Indonesia, there is an increasing trend of year-on-year growth of 54%. Malaysia is 87%, Philippines is 55%, Singapore 87%, Thailand 81%, and Vietnam 46%. So you can just imagine the online growth and how that is driving the e-commerce. In terms of New Zealand, we are very fortunate to be New Zealander. We have clean green image. We are a trusted brand as a country. And what does that do is that there's a built-on trust of dealing with New Zealand. And we have products which are not only sustainable, but also of premium quality. And in the growing middle-class regions, our products attract high premium. Closure of bricks and mortar stores. Again, this is not only a COVID-related trend, but it has accelerated. COVID has accelerated. The retail has been suffering. The more businesses, if you have a retail business and you don't have online presence, there's going to be a problem. And with those closure, our exporter get the opportunity to be able to position their premium and sustainable products and fill that gap in those marketplaces, in those whatever the regions you want to operate in. So while it's not great for bricks and mortar, but it's great for the online businesses. As we have gone through in last about 9 or 9-10 months due to COVID. So in terms of changes, what we have seen following COVID, there is a new growth areas, and as I mentioned, the region Southeast Asia is a growing region. It's about 583 million people living in 6 countries: Vietnam, Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, Philippines, and Thailand. And that's a large population in small region. And these are the region where New Zealand has a hugely popular brand. One, from a tourism perspective, but people love our clean, green, sustainable image. In those regions, the internet penetration is about 70%. And also, if I just share with you one small statistics, due to COVID, 40 million new users joined in 2020. And this is in comparison to 100 million between 2015 to 2019. And an average, as I mentioned before as well, I think there was a additional hour of online usage and people buying from those categories I mentioned. And there are other categories like food delivery and education, which is slightly more localized kind of insight. With any trade, there are always barriers. And the barriers to trade literally comes down to, from a perspective of business, is a service. And when I talk about service, what it means is that due to COVID, what has happened is the capacity constraint in the airlines and also in the sea freight, and that whole capacity availability has become an issue. And when capacity is an issue, then it is difficult to determine when your product will be able to ship out. When that happens, that impacts the service. And not only that, there has been an increased surcharging both on airlines and sea freight. And there are some places we have a port surcharges, and then somewhere the product is coming into a seaport, but then there are congestion charges there. And then people are then trying to move out of sea freight, the sea freight product through air freight. So there is quite a few barriers which are unique to COVID. But in terms of non-COVID related barriers to trade are always understanding the market you are going in, what the local legislation says, what the import or tax duties and the implications are, what the de minimis is in those markets. So one should be aware of what the barriers to trade is. At the highest level, it is also important that New Zealand has, if there is any free trade agreement, and what opportunity that provides us. So again, the COVID has changed the whole import and export landscape. And while the Southeast Asia remain a growing region, there is an Africa which is growing really fast. Equally is the South America. And those regions will continue to grow further. In terms of if you are in an online e-commerce business, these trends, which are really e-commerce events, they are growing. I mean, we just have had Click Frenzy in Australia, 11.11 in China. 11.11 in China is 26% growth Alibaba have seen, and from the past year. And the past year possibly had similar level 2-digit growth from the previous year. JD.com, SFH, Little Red Book, all those places, you name it, they are seeing the growth. Then is 27th of November, Black Friday coming up, Cyber Monday, Double 12, and then 25th of December, Christmas, Boxing Day, and New Year. If one is in an e-commerce export business, and depending on how we look at it, whether it's import and export, but these dates are very important. These dates are driven, and it has become global phenomena. So one should be ready for those, plan it, and not only from a product perspective, but actually understanding the consumer preferences and choices, understanding how the supply chain would work, how that might be that you need to take your product to your chosen market ahead of time, that you are fully geared up to be able to leverage the local partnership to deliver to the consumer or the businesses you are serving. So I can't stress the importance of these events and planning ahead and ensuring that all the supply chain, stock, and marketing is well managed and well executed. If I move towards international supply chains, these are complicated. Domestically, the supply chains will start and end within New Zealand. In terms of New Zealand Post partner network, we operate hybrid supply chain or hybrid network. We have our physical presence with our own staff of course, in New Zealand, in Australia, in Sydney, in Singapore, and then we have and from their location, we are closer to the market and customer. These places are strategically picked. If you really look at in Singapore, what we cover is Southeast Asia. Also, we are one flight away from Europe and UK. From Sydney, we deal with USA. From New Zealand, we explore the South American region, and also we provide the import and export facilitation for our customer. We have our presence through E2E, which is Extraterritorial Office of Exchange Definitions, and that is from outbound Singapore and also from UK. What does that mean is, what is Extraterritorial Office of Exchange? Effectively, this is New Zealand Post in Singapore and UK legally able to consolidate products and send it across the world. So these are our core trade lanes. But this network, if I just explained, Universal Postal Union, UPU network is 220 countries. And if we overlay in our chosen trade lane, which is into Australia, USA, UK, Europe, and Southeast Asia, especially through Singapore, China, we actually offer, extend our services. Why hybrid? Because we leverage the best of postal supply chain, and where it comes to fast tracking that product through express network of the commercial, we can take the product to that destination using the postal channel, and then we can clear commercially and inject into the local network through the last mile provider, and those are our partner. It could be a postal operator, it could be a commercial operator. So there is a wide ranging, and our local teams enable that. So while talking of our partner network, if I just explain to you, take your attention towards postal international supply chain, what it is. It's a domestic network, which is based in New Zealand. We pick product from your facilities, we bring to our international gateway, and that is where all the compliance, import, export compliance happen. We ensure that the product is packed in a way that it meets the local legislation or the legislation of the way we want to send it. And then we ensure, based on your needs, whether air or sea freight will suit you, because it depends. That choice is a cost, also service performance, and the availability, because these days the capacity is a major constraint as well. And then when it leaves our shore, then we monitor and influence through partners. The product lands to the offshore international gateway, which is through our partners. And then we do exactly the same process of clearance, custom clearance, and any regulation needs to be applied. We will do that on your behalf. And then depending on whether we want to use postal supply chain, and then will be a postal network, which is a postie or a courier vans, they will deliver your products. If same is mirrored, but slightly differently, is a commercial international supply chain. We pick your product, bring to international gateway, we look for capacity, we make sure when the product is shipped outside, we have the data exchange happening digitally with the other border authorities, especially in some countries. In-flight clearance happen, and then your product get picked up by our commercial partner. It could be, again, postal, because most of the postal these days have a commercial arms, or it could be a purely commercial. This flow of supply chain for both commercial and postal happen both way. So for import and export, because some of our exporter may also have interest in import. New Zealand being the net importer country, while we have a very premium brands to export, but lots of raw material comes in. So not only we as a New Zealand Post can help you, we run a large domestic network to take your product overseas, But equally, we can also help you that if there are element of your business where you want to bring certain raw material or other stuff from overseas, as I mentioned, my colleague Valina, that the office that she leads or manages in Singapore and Australia, and even USA or UK, that office is set up to be able to act as a mentor, provide you the guidance. So this is what our postal commercial supply chain mean. Now I will move to taking your product to the world. What that means is that we, as I have mentioned, that we have the ability through our postal and commercial network, a vast network. And just to remind ourselves that the postal business has been here around 160, 70 years. And these are really trusting partnership built on. And as e-commerce has evolved, we have extended those to the commercial relationships. So we are pretty geared up from your door in New Zealand to be able to consumer door at any part of the world. How we can help support your business? We have products for Go Courier, Australia, China, UK, USA. But the real thing is, it's not about products. It's actually about understanding your business. It's actually acting as an advisor, as a supply chain specialist to you, working with you, helping you understand in your chosen market what the consumer needs are, what the market needs are, and developing a solution which suits your business. And one of the barriers to doing e-commerce business is returns. We have those solutions, and depending on whether we want the return to New Zealand or another country, or we want to destroy or keep the product, all that can be built in part of the solution. And as part of the solution as well is, do you want purely air freight, purely sea freight, purely hybrid? Is it a mix of all of that? Is it a cost is a function? Is it a postal clearance will be helpful to you, or a commercial clearance will be helpful to you? What kind of size dimension products you have? Is it fall under the dangerous goods category, or is it simply a product which can actually take a normal shape of a small packet? All those we can talk it through, sit down and develop solution. It's not about just saying is go to a shelf, there are 3 boxes, you can pick one. International supply chain and export and import businesses are a bit more complicated, and we as our New Zealand Post role to help New Zealand businesses grow. Our role is for you to be successful, because then we become successful. And that is where we actually sit down and brainstorm the joint solution development. We have teams, as I mentioned again, New Zealand, Australia, Singapore. They are there to serve you. They understand, they are local experts. They live, breathe, and deal with those businesses. And they understand the local legislation. For example, the coming up Brexit, we have team who actually can help you understand what the requirement going to be. Again, things to keep in mind. I'm just pretty much close to wrapping it up. We are in a busy time of the year, lots of events going on. As I mentioned, it's Christmas cutoff date, but then again, there are many other e-commerce events one should be mindful of. Effectively, there used to be a time when people will say, oh, it's a peak time for a postal or commercial businesses in December. That's gone. The peak is whole year, because these e-commerce events drive that. And peak starts way earlier in the year. And as an exporter, one should be really ready to be able to understand, manage inventory, and position their product accordingly. Always capacity constrained, because we are living in a world which is actually is a new territory for all of us. One should be really working with a supply chain partner like us in a very close collaboration. It's no more a service provider relationship, because your success is embedded into us. And every day we wake up, like for example, today for New Zealand, only 170 destinations are open for business out of 220. 50 we can't still do business. Similarly, an airline starts and then they stop. Some airline do part of the passenger side they are using as a cargo plane. So the close communication to understand where the capacity constraints are, where the port constraints are, how can we divert product if we see unforeseen situations. And then there are certain destinations which we have challenges. There's still access issues. Regulatory changes are happening. It is pre and post-COVID situation. China regulation pre-COVID was an ongoing way the e-commerce regulation was being updated. Brexit is coming up. New Zealand, Australia, GST changes happen. Similarly, in USA, there is electronic data exchange requirement. Similarly, in Europe is also the data exchange requirements, and also they had some regulatory changes there. So understanding those regulatory changes and ensuring the right solution is picked and your product has complied to all the proper regulatory compliance, so there are no issues from a supply chain point of view. Again, Brexit is really key date, so one should be mindful of. Fundamentally, when a business think of going global, they are actually not only taking products global. One must understand the market, not only what the population is, what the demographic is, what the GDP is, what the middle class likes, is actually understanding the culture. Each Southeast Asian region, while we may think is an Asian region, they have a different languages and different culture. Understanding of that, and also understanding how their local festival work, and ensuring that the marketing, positioning, and the export products are positioned in a way that it's a win-win. And it is not simply about selling products. It's no more product just putting in a shelf and people will come and buy. It is just that New Zealand brand. It is just our image. It's our reputation. And these are the things which we need to keep in mind. All in all, New Zealand is a great destination for great products which are premium and sustainable. So these are some of the things which one need to keep in mind, and I'm sure things which goes without saying is functioning technology and having the ability that you could monitor your inventory and service performance, and that goes without saying. This was sort of the highlights of how New Zealand Post can help, and how the export, from an export perspective, how can we help you go global. There is a lot more insight which we can engage further. If there is any interest, talk to your business manager. There will be email address. You can email us. We are very happy to answer any question. Valina is available. Valina and myself are happy to answer any question from an import, export, some local culture, market regulation perspective, the platform we operate in. We are very happy to answer any question. Thank you very much for your time. It's an honor to be speaking to you, and I hope this was useful. Thank you.
Hail and Valina, and thanks to those of you who have taken part in today's poll. You can see the results on screen now to the right of the video panel. So it looks like most of you are going to be leveraging the fact that you have a trusted New Zealand brand, which makes perfect sense. So the good news is we've received a lot of great questions from our viewers today. Thank you so much for sharing these, and we're going to crack into these now. So the first question for Sahil, what are some things to be aware of when looking at emerging markets?
I think the most important thing is to understanding of that market. One must do research to understand what the consumer preferences in those chosen markets are, and need to make sure that not all markets, even if they may exist in the same region, for example, Asia, not all the Asian countries have a same culture or speak the same language. So understanding of those aspects, understanding the middle class growth and their preferences, ensuring that how your product can actually fit in with their preferences, those are the things one should be aware of.
Wonderful. Thank you, Sahil. Now, Velina, it sounded like you might have been having some technical issues before. Are you with us now?
I am. Thank you, Greta.
Wonderful. I've got a question for you. How do your offices in Australia and Singapore help me here in New Zealand?
Hey, look, Greta, we've got offices in Australia and Singapore. We've got a really good team here that can help people understand market dynamics, border compliance. I guess the other thing for Singapore, Singapore is our gateway to Southeast Asia. And as Sahil alluded today in the presentation, Southeast Asia is a fast-growing market. So, yeah, we've got expertise on the ground to help enter into those markets. Look, and I think the other thing is that Australia and Singapore, it's a good, it's close to New Zealand, but it's also good where we can look after the import capability for sourcing product. And the last one that we really are very passionate about are returns, getting consumers' returns back to the destination country.
Wonderful. Thanks, Velina. Sahil, back over to you. Got a question here. We are a small business in the organic skincare/hair care market and want to grow into the Australian market. How can New Zealand Post help us beyond the supply chain?
Sure. Very good question. We can help our exporters explore Australia market through our local presence in Australia. We can help them understand the customer or consumer preferences, and we can work with them and also with our partner and help them beyond supply chain in terms of understanding, positioning, and how they may be able to market that product in those places. Our role is as a trusted advisor, and we will do our best to help our customer beyond only a simple supply chain relationship.
Thank you. Velina, back over to you. Are there currently countries that can't send or receive to New Zealand due to COVID-19?
Yeah, look, that's right, Greta. There are around about 30 countries. I mean, there's more countries that can't reach New Zealand at the moment. But at last count, those smaller countries that can't reach, we still are receiving mail from countries like Asia, China, Australia, United States and the UK. We've got more information where you can find out where those countries are limited into entering New Zealand through our website.
Cool, thank you. And just to note that our website is the best place to check for any information around international or domestic delays. And of course, our sending deadlines for Christmas too, so make sure you check it out. Sahil, why are undelivered parcel windows for inquiries so short, especially when we should be expecting delays? 14 days seems too short for filing a claim.
I'm not sure if this is 14 days is the correct information, but possibly I would recommend our exporter visiting the website. But as far as I know, domestic parcel or courier, it is 21 days. International courier service, it's 30 days. And international postal service, we have 90 days. So I encourage just to go to our website and double check this information.
Cool, thanks. That's really good advice. Velina, a question for you about Australia. So at the moment, orders that are going to WA are being sent to Sydney first. So is there a known time frame in place for when they might be able to go direct to WA?
Yeah, look, as we were in COVID, Greta, the capacity, the airlines are really struggling to get flights over to WA. We have more flights coming into Sydney, and we're doing our best endeavour to get those goods to Western Australia. The outcome will be, once the borders are open, once we've got out of our bubble, we would see more frequency to service the Western Australia. But at this moment, we do have good capacity out of New Zealand into Sydney, with a transfer up to WA.
Cool, thank you. And I've got a question here, and this hopefully we've had a few questions about this, so hopefully this question encompasses a few and we get the answer we need. Sahil, for you, I am at the beginning of exporting my products. What international markets should I consider?
Good question. I think it all depends on what the type of product is. In the international markets, there is, as I mentioned in my presentation, Southeast Asia is a growing region, then is Africa and South America. But in terms of low barriers to entry, perhaps one should look at Australia and USA, where at least if they are Western countries with English-speaking customers, and it is really no perfect answer in where to start. It depends on what product, what service you are offering, and how the demand of those products and services on in some selected markets. So effectively, from a low barrier to entry perspective, perhaps 3 hours away, Australia and USA could be a good starting point.
Cool, thanks, Sahil. That's really solid advice. Actually, don't go away. I've got another one for you here. Question, does New Zealand Post offer international shipments for DAP terms of trade or only DDP?
Yes. Yeah, if I understand correctly, I think the question is DAP and perhaps DDU, which means delivery paid, duties paid, and unpaid. So we do offer both. In terms of our commercial products, we have both the services available.
Thank you. Velina, what is happening with pricing? I've heard of increases in export shipping costs by 30%.
Yeah, look, Greta, with COVID coming in and limited freight capacity across the globe, we have been impacted with airline surcharges imposed by airlines. Volumetric surcharging has also become a real factor. And we're seeing recently just shipping line increases go through the roof.
Wonderful, thank you. And just one other question for you, Velina. Do you have New Zealand Post run or recommended 3PL services in Singapore or other offshore markets for your New Zealand product e-commerce customers?
Yeah, we do, Greta. So the facility here in Sydney and in Singapore, we offer, as we talked about before, returns. We offer 3PL last mile delivery anywhere in Australia and in Singapore. And most importantly, when you're thinking about Singapore, think about how the free trade zone works in Singapore, where you don't need to land goods. You can keep it bonded and then fulfill from Singapore to the rest of the world.
Cool, thanks, Velina. And this is unfortunately the last question that we have time for today. This one's for you, Sahil. We are a small healthcare product in New Zealand. Can you give us any information about how to market in China?
Yes, I think simple answer is China is quite large market. And it depends on how to market. Is it online, offline? Do you want to sell on platforms or do you want to sell in the physical stores? We have a relationship with about 10 or 12 platforms. We have a very strong partner, Trade Monster, who effectively is an extension of New Zealand Post in China. They do all the trading partner relationship on our behalf. And we definitely can help you get online on those platforms, which is actually New Zealand Post shops on those platforms. And we can also help you understand the local China retail market and see where those product may fit. And we can offer you the services where you can actually store your product, like local warehouses, so that you have you can send your product in bulk, and then we can offer the last mile. We can offer you the marketing services. We have quite an established services and offerings in China market. And please get in touch with your business manager to get more information.
Thank you, Sahil. So thanks again to all of our viewers for the great questions today. Unfortunately, that is all we have time for if we want to send you off in time to have your lunch. But just before you go, we would really appreciate it if you could please just complete a short questionnaire, which is under the survey tab just at the bottom of your screen here. This will help to make sure that we're offering you really useful content that's helpful to you and your business. Thanks Thanks again for attending today's webinar. We will be holding more in early 2021, but for now, mā te wā, see you next time.